Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to Ask Diaphone. So every Friday, I'm going to be answering the questions that are submitted to my Discord in the Ask Diaphone channel. And this is actually the Zoomer edition because we're watching Combo Breaker at the same time. And, you know, at least you guys have something else to watch in the background. So I'm going to be going through these questions, answering them. And you're welcome to ask your own questions if you just joined the Discord and ask them in the channel. So, first question is, you're just too predictable. Hey, I played Guilty Gear Strive. I'm in floor 10.5, which I think happens to a lot of people. They get stuck in floor 10.5, but they play Eno, right? And I think the issue that Hayden's having here is they are either always doing an option, like I'm always doing HCL, or I'm never doing HCL, right? And it's like, how do I choose, like, sometimes do HCL, or like how do I to me this is a question of like, how do I build a decision tree so I'm forced to only use HCL some of the time, right? And to me this is a question of like, everyone has their own flowchart, right? So to me, I like to think of like, let's take Eno for example. You can do a high, a low, or a throw. You can do overhead, low, or throw, and that's kind of your mix-up, right? And that might be where like a 10.5 Eno is coming from, is they mix up those three options. But the stronger you get as a player, the more options you're going to be adding to your flowchart. So for example, you might add a delayed overhead, or you might add double overhead, or you might do overhead in the throw, or you know, you might do low into empty low. I don't know. There's like a million things you could do, right? And I think in order to avoid that predictability, you have to build out that flow chart so there's more options. And that's the same thing with like spamming HCL and neutral, right? If you're not spamming HCL and neutral, what are your other options, right? I think a lot of beginner Enos will be like, I'm either gonna throw out this long range move that's really punishable, or I'm just gonna sit there, or like I'm gonna, you know, do stroke and dive kick to try to get it. And there's like one of like two ways you could play Eno, but realistically there's a lot of different things you can do Eno, just like with movement and her buttons and that sort of thing. And I think both of these like situations that I didn't bring up are both like based on how do I say, like not having a diverse flow chart. So to me it's like, yeah, you could just add more options, and then how you be less predictable with the options is have better decision criteria for when you choose what, right? So for example, let's say opponent's always fuzzy guarding you, then you need an option that will beat that, right? So for example, if someone always walks high then low, you could do a delayed overhead. That's your decision tree for like when to do a delayed overhead, right? If someone's always, let's say for example, someone's always dashing at you, that's what HCL is weak against, then you can do a, I don't know, let's say you can like throw out preemptive pokes, like a preemptive 2H or something like that. So you need reasons that are disguised from your opponent, and therefore be less predictable, but also be more meaningful and give you more variety to also be less predictable. So two different ways to kind of approach that. There's either the, you know, build out your flow chart and choose bet more randomly, or build out your flow chart and how do I say, have a hidden decision criteria for why you do things, or just like rot your brain and take a bunch of drugs and do random shit. No, don't do that. All right, better implementing risk reward consideration in the gameplay. So I read this. This is from Lord Teddy, I believe. Yeah. So this is a weird question because they're basically like, I look at terms of risk reward based on like frame data, character tools, player habits, etc., which is what you should be doing, right? But I don't consider some other contextual thing before making a decision. And so to me, that comes down to experience and like game awareness, right? So for example, in Grand Blue, let's say you're a fireball character, or I think they play Anila, right? And let's say you do your ult sheep, and against some characters, you know that you can't do ultimate sheep. Ultimate sheep's like a really, really cheap move, by the way. You can't do this really, really cheap move because your opponent has something to counter it, but half the cast doesn't have something to counter it, right? So pretty early on, as an Anila player, you learn who can counter that move and who can't, right? And that comes down to game knowledge, right? Like if you don't know who can counter your broken move and who can't, then like it doesn't matter like what kind of calculations you're doing or how you're calculating it. It just comes down to simple game knowledge. And that's kind of think where I'm getting a vibe of like, hey, you're just getting game knowledge gapped on some of these like contextual things because you've never been in that context before, or you just didn't realize that was a thing, right? It's easier for me to consider the risk of something when I take a lot of damage right away, as opposed to something that could lead into a snowball. With those, I didn't really foreseeing it. Yeah, it's I mean, it's basically all around the same question as like, how do you determine risk reward if you don't know what your opponent's gonna do, or you're not full of the options, right? And to me, it's like you just gotta calculate it based on what you know, right? So I'm guessing this person has Beatrix in their name. I'm guessing they've been playing Beatrix. There's some very general rules. Like Beatrix has a couple of really cheap moves to get in, and you can do those, but they become a lot riskier when your opponent has super, right? There's not much risk reward calculation. You either do it or you don't, and you mix up the timings and try to be unpredictable. And you try to, how do I say, like, not get punished for those risky options, so to speak. So to me, it's like, you just gotta do the best with what you have in terms of risk reward. And then as you get more experience, you're gonna be able to add more context, and you're gonna be able to, incorporate those additional things that you're unaware of and better, right? But to me, it's like, if you really refine your determinate, like I find especially at like pre-master levels, people, their base level of risk reward determination is like nowhere near optimal, and there's so much work you can do on like, hey, when do I strike, when do I throw, right? It's not a 50-50 in Grand Blue. Strike is way stronger and way safer than throw, right? So it's actually like a 80-20 or even higher percentage in terms of risk reward. So to me, it's like, focus on the basics and just gap with that, and then you'll learn context as you go. You guys are obsessed with turn off your brain, bro. Turn off your brain is not the answer for every as Diaphone question. All right. Governor asks, hey, Diaphone, long-time watcher but new to Discord. Videos have been help. Awesome, glad to hear. Basically, this guy, Governor, is saying, people are saying that I'm not scared of you. I don't feel under pressure. That I can do whatever I want. It's interesting because to me, those are different things, right? I've already read this. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but if someone ever says like, I feel like I could do whatever I wanted, that means you're not punishing their shit, right? So for example, if they're jumping at you, you're not anti-airing. If they keep throwing you, you're not punishing it, or you're not punishing properly, right? If they are, I don't know, in Street Fighter, I don't even know what game this guy's talking about, but like in Street Fighter, they're doing drive rush and you don't check it, right? So if I ever say I feel like I could do whatever I want, it's because I'm doing unsafe options and you're not checking them, right? How do you get better at that? You do drills and you focus on reacting to things better, so you could stop people from doing whatever they want, right? I'm just not scared of you. That's a lot different, right? So maybe it could be referring to the same thing. I think that's very generalized feedback, so it's kind of hard to like say. They could mean like a lot of different things, but like, I'm not scared of you, right? That could mean what we just talked about, where I'm not scared that you're gonna anti me, so I'm just gonna keep fucking jumping because who gives a shit, right? Or it can mean that like kind of where this third comment of I don't feel under pressure at all. Like, let's say you get the hit, let's say you get the anti-air, then you don't do anything with it, right? So like in Street Fighter, a lot of times if you hit an anti-air, you're setting something up. Your Gal, you throw a sonic boom. Aki, you drive rush in, you do a mix-up, right? And if that mix-up's not good, and they can just block it out, or they can just how do I say, you're too predictable, you don't select your options well, then like, yeah, they're not gonna be scared of you. So to me, it's like, this seems like again, this is kind of general, right? But it sounds like it's one, like making sure you're reacting to shit your opponent can do, and then two, like, because that will get you from neutral to like a favorable situation, and then two, it's like when you do that, like how do you enforce your offense, right? And every game's different, but you have to understand like what's your actual mix-up. And Street Fighter is strike, throw, shimmy. And I've played people, let's say a diamond player, and they're only doing two of the options, right? Especially diamond players, it's very often they're just doing strike and they're doing throw and they don't do shimmy, right? Because in iron, there's no point in shimmying because no one's doing delay throw tech, right? So the more you understand that and you have the layers of your offense that will beat everything, or like at least understand the mix-up, I think those are the two steps. Or one, like making sure your mix-up's true and that you have an answer for everything your opponent can do. And then two, like make sure your reactions are on point and that you're actually stopping the shit that you should be stopping. Yeah, you could be playing it too safe, but at the same time, like what does that actually mean, right? Does that mean you're just cornering yourself and then like the opponent's still gonna have to take a risk if you're playing too safe? I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, when you play it safe, you make it harder for yourself to like. If you just corner yourself, then all right, you just made it way harder for like your footsies to be real, right? So yeah, there's a lot of ways you could take this question for sure. Yeah, you could be just not playing too passively, not abusing the cheap shit. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say, but I hope that helped. That's my guess, is they don't know what to punish, right? And I mean, you can determine that in a bunch of different ways, right? You can, I mean, Street Fighter 6 replay mode is amazing. You see the frame data, you know how fast your shit is. If you don't know how fast your shit is, you should learn how fast your shit is. Same thing with Tekken, right? They show you things that you can be punishing. Or you could just ask them, right? Like, ask them what they like. Ask that. Honestly, if people are actually, here's the actual tip. If people are telling you this shit, ask them for more specific feedback, because this feedback's fucking ass, bro. tell them like actual. Ask them for specific shit, because this feedback's fucking ass. All right, Tonic Spirits. All right, this is this guy calling me out on Zooey. So, as you guys know, all right, we're gonna have to stop the Zoomer gameplay for a second. I made this tier list. I called Zooey bottom 5. 4 months later, I called Zooey around half the top half of the cast, 15th, 20th. I can't count. Or I don't feel like counting. What changed? That's the question. So there's a couple things. One, I kind of underestimated some of her Zooey stuff. Right, which is like dash H is way better than I thought it would be. Some of the set plays and combos were found since this tier list was developed that actually increased her damage output a lot, especially the post EX Rekka juggles. They got a lot better, and because they got a lot better, her damage went up, and I'm like, oh shit, like the risk reward in this character is a lot better than I thought it was, right? I also just understood the system a lot more since I made that second tier list, and Zooey actually plays really well into the system. Like her ults, a lot of her ult skills are actually better than I thought. Like her jump ult skill is like really good for throw baiting, does a shit ton of damage. Even her dragon like pressure in the corner is still really good, because strike throw is like stronger in this game than the previous Grand Blue, I think. Just because throws are harder to tech, so it's like stronger or weaker because you can't react to throws, but delay tech's stronger. But Zooey gets like a bunch of turns and block. I don't know. There's like that whole concept, but Zooey got buffed since I made this tier list, right? It was a pretty minor buff, but the issue is she was really bad at using dash L because her far L like wouldn't convert a lot of the time, right? But now it converts, and she probably had like the best far 5L change of the whole cast, so now it's super consistent, so she can play the dash L game like everyone else and actually get like consistent confirms from it. So it's part combination buff, part combination like me understanding the game better, and then yeah, I think she's doing pretty well. All right. I was told to cover this. Forty asks, how do I use Potemkin better? I don't know. I'm not answering that fucking question, bro. If you ask a shitty question, you're gonna get a shitty answer. All right, last one. High level transferability. Lolo asks, hey Diaphone, my question is as follows. Suppose you're a player who's reached high tiers of play in some game, top 20 before levels a major, you eventually go to another game when you learn games seem prodigious and how fast you can do it. So the question is, for someone that attained a strong level of game at one game, how can you best use that to learn new games quickly? If possible, turn about a journey from mid-level to top player level. So mid-level to top level is a completely different question. I think honestly, my journey from mid-level to top level was a very gradual one. It's something that took a lot of effort. It's something that I had to achieve. I had to get over a lot of plateaus. I have a video on that. I think I linked to somewhere else where basically I talk about getting over plateaus. That answers that question really well, I think. But there's a lot of like analyzing shit from different angles, and also getting like my real life shit in order so I can, better focus on the game and that sort of thing. But the actual part of like how you transfer skills, honestly, I think a lot of it, this is a kind of a cop-out answer, but I've always been the kind of the person that plays like a bunch of fighting games at once. And so because I have so much experience in it, it's a lot easier, right? Like there's a lot of like things I can pull from other games to a new game and be like, oh yeah, this move is just like this other character's bullshit move, right? And so like I know how to use it. Actually, for example, Beatrix, right? Beatrix just came out, and Grand Blue has a move very similar to Eno's H-Stroke. And so I know certain things about like how to use H-Stroke that I could apply to Beatrix, right? And so like take for example, like a really niche example is if someone's always DPing your H-Stroke with Eno, what you can do is you can do the S-Stroke, which is shorter, but the startup looks the same, bait the DP and then punch. And you can do the same exact thing with Beatrix. And I knew that from day one, but someone that hasn't like played Eno before, they're not going to know that, right? And think of all those cumulative advantages that I've had because I've played a bunch of different characters, right? So that's the easy answer, but I will say there's a lot of things that you can like, how do I put this, that I can say that are more general. One is I think you have to go in with like low expectation and understand that like just because you play one game doesn't mean you're gonna be great. Even when the first time I pick up a game, I'm fucking shit at it, right? It usually even though I get good really fast, I still can't just pick up the game hour one and like start beating people. I have to learn combos. I have to learn all this other shit that's important, and then I can start cooking people, right? That process is quicker for me, but that process still exists, right? Even though I can like I've simplified that process a lot. And if I could like give any tips to that, it's like what's you want to get the most bang for your buck for your character, right? So how can you win with your character? And like, what are the most important things you need to learn, right? Because you want to shorten the amount of time it takes to start cooking people, right? So to me, it's like, yeah, I know I need like an anti-air combo. I need like a regular combo. I need like certain situations. I need like all these like base scenarios down. I need to know what moves to do in neutral. I know what to look out for because of experience. I need to like learn the system mechanics and like how the system mechanics incorporate. Like I focus on learning the essential shit, and then I start playing matches, and then I think I'm really good at like once I play a match and I see where the hole is in my logic, then I go to training mode and I fix that immediately, and then I keep iterating that cycle. And I think I'm just really good at that cycle of like figuring out what I'm missing, researching, labbing shit out, and then filling that gap, and then going back online, and then playing more, and then figure out my gaps and like keep iterating. I think I'm really good at that. Like I'm very efficient in figuring out where the weaknesses are in my gameplay, if that makes sense. I think that also just comes from a lot of experience, but I think you can do it too, just looking at like just thinking about where you're taking damage and like why your opponent is getting like beating you in neutral, or why they're opening you up on defense. Like think of it in terms of damage, like where you're taking the most damage and where you're getting your damage, and try to like minimize those opportunities. I agree with like what chat's saying too. Try more archetypes. The more well-rounded you are, the better you're gonna be, right? So for example, if you're trying to play 2xKO, I call it 2KO, and you've only played Street Fighter 6, you're probably not going to be the best at 2xKO because you're not as well-rounded as someone that's played Street Fighter 6 and like tag games, right? So to me, it's like the more well-rounded you could be, like the more shit you try, the more archetypes you try, the broader your horizons are going to be, and then you can kind of go from there. So also, like, I will say the other thing that's really good, Lolo, about like learning a new fighting game that people don't do is steal. People always think that I'm really good at coming up with tech. I'm actually not that great at coming up with tech. I'm probably just as good as your average lab monster, but I'm really good at stealing tech from people and like being good with it, right? Like I'm really good at stealing the tech and figure out what tech is good and what tech is bad. And the way you get good at that is like steal tech from people and then figure out what makes good tech, what makes bad tech. I have actually I forgot this. One more. I'm really feeling the Azucena Nerfs in Tekken 8. I saw this question. I have no clue how to answer this because I don't play Azucena that much. But I will say, Dominator. Let's look at these Tekken 8 ranks, right? Dominator is yellow rank, bro. There's a long way to go. Which means that these nerfs are not really the true reason you're losing. I mean, like, yeah, sure, you can't rely on running 3-2, but there's a lot of room for improvement, right? There's still Azucenas that are at God Destruction cooking people, and you could be one of them, as long as you keep up the grind. But there's a lot of room. Like, it doesn't even matter, guess bite, like, what tip you take, because, like, I know Kind saying, like, down forward 1-4-1, that actually is the good move. There's so much you can learn. Like I can't even give you like a specific tip because there's so much low-hanging fruit that you can cook with, right? But I will say, yeah, get your one player game down And it sounds like you just need more experience too, and I think you'll be good. But yeah, the nerfs suck. Obviously, you're gonna take a hit from it, but you know, just keep grinding. I think you'll be good. And this guy just posted a replay. I'll do replays of where people post replays, but you guys got to post them in the VOD channel, bro. It's right here. All y'all guys, you guys just ask questions, bro. Plus, if we get enough replays in the VOD channel, I'll take a look at VODs, especially since Metafy. I used to do VOD review on Metafy, and then they took it away. So I can no longer do VOD review on Metafy. I just do regular coaching on Metafy, so like hour-long sessions. So I'll do a VOD review here. That's cool. Metafy is going to shit anyways. They're charging people $30 a month to do coaching now. It's super cringe. Hey, Diaphone, back from their questions. Yeah, if I get enough VODs, I'll do it. But best fuzzy defense for Yule, it's delay button. It's the same best fuzzy defense for everyone. Delay button. Anyways, boys, that was it. I hope you let me know if you guys like Zoomer Ask Diaphone better than regular Ask Diaphone, and I catch y'all in the next one. Join the Discord. Peace.